like to treat trees.
You do?
Yeah. I don't know how well they work, but we don't have much trees. I'd like to treat them. Maybe see. Oh, there's trees.
Recording in progress.
Time is 4:30 p.m. Pelican Rapids City Special Council meeting of 7 October 2021 is called to order. There's a clipboard on the back table. If you have not signed in yet, if you please do that before you leave this evening, and also please put all cell phones on vibrate. Roll call of members. Daniel?
Councilmember Steve Strand.
Here.
Councilmember Kevin Ballard.
Here.
Councilmember Kurt Markgraf.
Here.
Councilmember Steve Foster.
Here.
And Mayor Brent Frazier.
Here. If we'd all please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome everyone in our council chamber here this afternoon. Like I said, this is a special meeting of the City Council just to talk about the 2024 Pelican Rapids Complete Street Project. So no other business will be conducted this evening. As you recall, there was a planned public meeting for the 2024 Complete Street Project scheduled for Thursday, September 30th, but that was postponed due to the fact that we decided we needed to have a meeting with MnDOT and the City Council, which is open to the public, where we can try to get on the same page and agreements to this project that is coming up. Introductions from MnDOT this evening. We have Tom Pace, District 4 Project Manager of Detroit Lakes, Shiloh Wall, District Engineer, Thomas Lundberg, Assistant District Engineer, and Trudy Kordowski, District Traffic Engineer. So the format for this evening's meeting, we'll have MnDOT explain this process to the City Council and the public, and we'll have interaction between MnDOT and the City Council. Then when we have no more questions here from the City Council, then we'll open it up to the public. Probably some of the questions that you have will be answered in our format here this evening. We are not going to take a vote this evening. Our next City Council meeting is next Tuesday. So that is on the agenda where we plan to take some action at that time. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Tom Pace, who is District 4 Project Management Team. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I'm sure most of you know me, but I've been down here numerous times to visit with you fine folks. And I'm trying to look for an apartment here pretty soon. So. But it's all good. I enjoyed coming down here. This has really been a fun project to work on, and hopefully we can keep working together on this one. So I'd like, as the mayor mentioned, we had a public meeting scheduled for end of September. But there was enough questions from the council members as well as the public that we thought it best to take a step back and answer those questions to make sure that everything is out in the open addressed as we move forward. A lot of things come together pretty fast on a job like this. We want to make sure that everything is all questions are answered before we have our public meeting. I guess before we get into more of a question and answer period, I'll give a little update on the project. Last week, some of you maybe saw me walk around town here again. I was here with our central office, 88 folks, our American Disability Act, I guess our team from central office, as well as our design consultant. We did a 2-day field walk in Pelican Rapids here. We were here a couple years ago. The first time it was a high-level conceptual review. And this past Tuesday, or Monday, Tuesday, since we had our conceptual layout almost done, we spent a lot more time working in town, more of a detailed design type field walk. So we spent time in every quadrant in town looking at, designs and our proposed designs, things to work around, some design issues to work through. And there were some changes that we came up with that we thought we would make to the layout. Because some things you see in the field, are different than you see on paper. Nothing ever beats boots on the ground. That's why we spent 2 days, long days. The last Monday we were here until 7, and then Tuesday here until 5 o'clock. And we spent a lot of time looking at things out in the field. So a lot of good questions and comments that come forth from my group, and hopefully we'll implement some of those with our project. The first one I'll talk about is on the screen here. I don't know what, because I can't see that far, but The current typicals here that Don's going to show. This is the existing, all these wires here, Don. This is the existing downtown 59 layout. We have 18-foot driving lanes, 10-foot parking, 2-foot kind of a boulevard area for street side, and then 10 feet of sidewalk. You can go to the next one, please. And this is what our current layout that we were talking about the last 4, 5, 6 months is showing. Is 12-foot driving, 10-foot parking, an 8-foot boulevard, and then 8-foot sidewalk, and then 2 feet of amenity zone next to the buildings. But during the field walk, we noticed that along the building faces, there are some benches and things that we thought would be nice for the city to put back in there. So we decided to take 2 feet off the boulevard. Go to the next typical, please. The next typical, we took the 2 feet from there, put over next to the buildings. That allows a little more room for benches or things in front of the stores, and still keep 8-foot wide shared use paths where it's supposed to be. We'll still have a 2-foot buffer on this side, and still leave 6 feet in our boulevard. And that 6 feet is a good number for street lights and signs and anything else the city, that you put in there for the project. So if you felt that was a really good design change that we plan to carry forward, not down to downtown corridor, but also elsewhere as it fits. You can look at the layout now, Don. And let's see, if you look at other things you're looking at, the field walk, we spent time looking for encroachments. Sometimes we saw where there's some mailboxes on Mendai right away. There are some fences on Mendai right away. There's decorative fences. There were lots of trees, which we'll get talked about, I'm sure, later, that we'll want to remove. We also saw, like in 108 East, there's a lot of no parking areas. Now, the big concern in Pelican Rapids we hear a lot about is a loss of parking. The earlier layout, we had 14 parking stalls on 59. We reduced that number down to 6. So that's a good design change. But now 108 East, for instance, there's like half a block where there's no parking areas. Those opportunities the city can look at, reducing some of those no parking zones, to add more parking stalls down there. Or if the city wanted to keep the whole thing no parking areas, we can actually make a design change and move our curb line out so we don't have to affect so many trees. Something the city needs to look at pretty quickly so we can move forward with designing. Like this block across from Sanford Healthcare, half the block is striped no parking. We're not sure why that's striped no parking. I mean, to me, it makes sense to add more parking in there. Or, like I say, if you want the whole block to be no parking, then we can move the curb line out and not take down trees in front of that person's house. So things that we can look at. Also on 108 East.
You want me to zoom in a certain area?
Yeah, go to 108 East and go actually right by Sanford, if you can kind of know where that is. One thing that the existing layout showed is a shared use path concept. 108 East going on the south side. For all of us that we've had about this for a long time know that shared use paths is a combination of bike trail and pedestrian trail. And every time we have bikes, we have to have buffers. Because bikes go faster than pedestrians, and we need buffers on both sides, in case people drop the road. Okay, where are we at here? Create number. You at what?
I'm at the wrong end.
That's 108 West. So you're getting close. So we decided, during a field walk, and looking at things in the field, existing roadway width on 108 East is 12-foot driving and 12-foot parking. So with our proposal of making everything 12-foot driving and 10-foot parking, we're proposing moving in the curb line in 2 feet, so it's 12-foot driving, 10-foot parking, that'll still be the same. But over on the south side, we don't have enough room for 8-foot shared use path. We just don't have enough space. Because 8-foot shared use path becomes a 12-foot sidewalk, there'll be a 2-foot buffer on both sides. You don't have enough right of way for that. So what we're proposing doing is just taking that 8-foot shared use path and just making that a sidewalk. Make it sidewalk width, so it's going to be from the curb line to the right of way, it's just going to be a wide sidewalk. And so we don't need to have the buffers there because it's not a shared use path. Bicyclists will still use it, we know that, and it's still going to be plenty wide. We don't need the 2-foot buffers. So either that, or we have to get narrower parking and narrower driving lanes. So we can't have both. Same thing with downtown. You can't have wider bike lanes and have wide parking at the same time. So some things have to give. So one-way east, the whole corridor on the north side has been switched to a sidewalk. And then the south side will still be the same sidewalk, 2 foot wide. Let's see, curb line will move 2 feet up and have a 6 foot sidewalk behind, next to our right of way. So all that's on our existing right of way. There's no need for buying more right of way along the corridor. It looks pretty good there. What else changes on there? So looking on the east end here, you can go around the curve up to Ann Drive. That's the area there that's going to be a little bit challenging to design. There's a big super on Highway 108 to the east, so we'll be working on trying to find the best location for the sidewalk. There's 2 options there we'll look at. Either we will have a separated buffer, a more green space from the existing travel lane to the sidewalk, or we're thinking about putting curb and gutter in all the way up to Ann Lane and moving the sidewalk next to the curb and gutter.
Say, Tom, you mentioned super. Maybe you could explain that a little bit more to the group, what super elevation means there?
Yeah, the super elevation basically is the slope of the road. But anytime you go around curves, a normal road goes both directions, there's a crown in the middle. With the super, the crown is on top of the road, so that all the water runs to one side. Now, it's kind of hard to explain. Hopefully my hand is showing you, but yeah, it goes from this to this. So with the big supers, hydraulic is huge in designing a road like this, make sure the water runs the right places. So having that super the way it is, we need to make sure that the water runs the right direction. So we can either drain it into ditches, or we can drain it into structures, extend our storm water out to Ann Drive. That area there is going to be a little more challenging one to design, so we're some options to look at down there. The 108 west, I think, was pretty clean.
Can you just touch on the crosswalk right here we talked about too? Just let people know.
Yeah, as part of our field walks, we also looked at all the crosswalk locations. Some are like the show on here with little bump outs. Most of those will be put back in as the layout showed. They're good locations. We did move a few of them if they were, depending on what we saw in the field, if there's trees on one side or fire hydrants on one side, or it makes sense where they go. We did relocate some of the crosswalks, better fits for the out in the field. Is that kind of what you're asking about?
Yep.
Yeah. And all that, and of course we look at it.
What's the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit then? Back up.
It was a design speed.
Right here. Right there.
Yeah, that should be 30. The design speed is 30 through the whole town, so that is an error. Good catch, Kevin. Good eye.
It's a different, the design speed is more designed for 35 miles an hour, a little bit more above the posted speed, to clarify that. I think that's the way we have it. So it'd still be 30 miles an hour, but when we look at our designs, it's set at a little bit of a higher speed to accommodate that, kind of like a factor of safety, if that makes sense. I think that's what you're meant to say, Tom.
Yeah. We do plan to design it at 30 miles per hour. So what Tom mentioned, sometimes we design higher than posted speed. We do that a lot. So roads are safer than their posted speed. It's a safety issue. But in this case, since we're in an urban setting and so narrow, we're designed at 30 miles per hour, which is the posted speed going through town. So yeah, good question. Let's see, any other questions on 108 East before I hop to 108 West? Yeah, 108 West, we did make a lot of changes over there. That was pretty good. The only question we got, we'll be talking to some of the business owners. We look at driveways a fair amount. To every driveway we look at, some are going to be moved a little bit. Some might, we look at closing at Escobar's here. There's a driveway here. We have to close this driveway in order to get the ped crossing in at the right distance from the intersection. So we'll be talking to Escobar. We'll still keep the drive-through lane, no problem. We made our splitter items shorter, so they can still get out of the drive-through. This driveway here will have to be closed. We'll modify some driveways up here, but it should still work out pretty good. And there's a driveway here at Griffin Family Insurance. We're going to close this one, move it around to this side on 59, do a wider access up there. So very few driveways have to be changed. This project is pretty nice, but there are a few that will be modifying to a certain degree. The big question on 108 West is on the very west end. Our current layout shows it stopping, the sidewalk stopping at, I believe it was the 5th. There's 30.
All the way out?
Yeah, keep going towards where it stops today, and that's at Fifth, right?
Where it stops today?
Yeah.
It stops at Third.
At Third today, it stops today at Third. So our original layout was kind of stopping at Third. And now the city is exploring the idea of running it all the way out to the Department of Buildings. Yeah, MnDOT agreed to help cost share one of the facilities. Now, we're talking about is a shared use path on the south side only. We will not pay for both sides of the trailer sidewalk one. So the city has decided if they want that sidewalk on the north side from Third to the Department of Buildings, and that's decided pretty soon. So otherwise, that's kind of our field walk in a nutshell. You know, the biggest change, like I say, is the downtown typical. We're going from 2 foot next to the building to 4 foot next to the buildings, and 6 foot boulevard, which should still meet all of our design standards. So looking at my list here, trees, like I mentioned last time, there'll be a lot of tree impacts. Basically everything within our right of way we'll look at removing. If they're in the way of sidewalk or shared use path construction, there are some trees that we remove that are in really bad shape through town. Some old rotten pine trees, some old rotten birch. Just the closer the project will give the property owner a chance to have it removed. Maybe that will take a long while with the project, but it's an option of the property owner if they want them removed. All along 59, all of the trees, especially from the school, for sure will come out on both sides. And this helps with pot next week with the trees in front of the turkey plant. The curb layout has them staying in. Now we're removing our path behind the trees. So it might make more sense to take on all the trees and then plant with new trees in the future. The existing trees are all ash trees, which are diseased. Emerald borer ash is a common disease, and trees are starting to look pretty sick up there right now. So I'm guessing in 10 years they're all going to be dead, 10 or 15. So with this job, it's a good time to remove them and replant them with healthier trees. So that's a big issue out the trees. A lot of trees in this project. There's probably 100 trees that will be removed along the whole corridor, so it's really no big project. So, and mentioned about the no parking lanes, and then mentioned about a lot of things. So maybe this time I'll kind of sit down and stop babbling and the council has any questions. And I've talked to a lot of you guys and hopefully answered most of them, but I'm sure there's more that hopefully we can find answers.
Questions from the council?
Everybody.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you, Tom. We keep looking at the same pictures. I guess, I'll take that. You have to look at these pictures. Very nice pictures.
Thank you.
But it's the same information.
Yeah.
And nothing has changed. So when we're told that we're not going to have our public information meeting because we want to get on the same page, you told us at the last meeting that we are getting roundabouts downtown, whether the community and our business community wants them. So what is the point of saying, well, we got to get on the same page? We're already on the same page. You're forcing these on us, whether the community wants them or not. So I don't understand. To me, it seems a little disingenuous that we're going to say, we're going to not have this meeting so that we can be a little more unified. We're not unified, Tom. I, for one, will not support this plan with the roundabouts downtown, period. If you ever try to convince, to count on my vote, you can count on my vote that voting on that will be a no, because I'm not going to support it. So I have no questions. I just I'm tired of we're going to work with you, it's up to the city, and here's what you get, and you're going to like it. And now we're in. I don't understand. I cannot, and I've tried. Every time I drive through town a lot. Every time I go through those intersections, I try to picture how that will benefit Pelican Rapids. And I cannot, and those of you, Don, Steve, Brent, that support, Kurt, Steve, that support the roundabouts, if you can tell me a benefit for our downtown businesses and for our community, not tied to dollars for our little pipes. Take that out of the equation. Take the money out of the equation. Do you really feel that the roundabouts are the best solution for downtown Pelican Rapids? Regardless of what our business community says, or I've yet to talk to a citizen, and I ask everybody I talk to, I bring this up. I've yet to have anybody tell me roundabouts are a good idea. We want these. Get them. Get rid of the stoplights. Not have one. 3 times this week I posted on Facebook telling about this meeting. The first post said, if you're in favor of these roundabouts, come to the meeting. I want to hear your opinion. I've yet, and you guys say I haven't talked to anybody that's against it. I haven't heard. Where are they? Are they from town or are they on Minto's team? I mean, I don't know where they are. So you really think roundabouts are the best solution for downtown Pelican Rapids and its businesses, who we represent? We don't represent MnDOT. I get it, Don, that you're the administrator and that you need to try to, you're tied to, you're looking for how to pay for things, and I understand that. But if we're making this decision, this is going to change Pelican Rapids forever. In 5 years, if we go to MnDOT and say, these really aren't working, will you come take them out? They aren't going to do that. Tom's told us, once this project's done, MnDOT's out of here for 20 years. Plus or minus. This is forever. Or at least for my lifetime. And if we're making this decision for our community and for our businesses based on dollars, we're making it for the wrong decision. We're making it for the wrong reason, and I don't want any part of it. So seriously, do you feel this is the best thing for downtown?
Excuse me. Like I said, it's a safer than traffic. Okay, then this is what we done. Bullshit. And then we go with the expert advice. This is a sign of the future. I mean, this is going on throughout not only Minnesota, but the nation.
Well, the next shiny thing comes down the road, then we'll change that too. Okay.
But I mean, it's for the future. It's not for us here today per se. It's for the future, for our kids, for our grandkids.
But they may not. But their standards are anything but standardized.
Well, we can't fight their standards.
Well, yeah. But if they're not standardized, State Highway 78 and State Highway 210 intersect at Battle Lake. There are reported fatal crashes at that intersection. They just redid all that down there. You know what they put there? 4-way stop sign. That'd be a perfect place for a roundabout. They put 4-way stop signs down. There's been one reported accident with injury between our 2 intersections using their data. So to say they're going to be safer, well then they better guarantee and assume all liability for any accidents that ever happen there, because they're basically guaranteeing that there's never going to be an accident there if they're safer than nothing already. Again, if our only decision to change the look and the whole of Pelican Rapids, if our only bargaining, the only thing that we're making that decision on is dollars, we're making this decision for the wrong reason. I'm done.
Well, let's say we wouldn't go along with the partnership.
But it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay, excuse me, let me talk. If we don't go along with the partnership, they're going to come in and do what they want to do, and then we're going to have to pay for the cost to excavate, to get out of the pipes to replace them, because the city is the one, the city is the partner
that implemented this change sooner, so we could get at our water and sewer main.
Oh, wait a minute, from the very, Tom has made this statement at several meetings also, that we wanted them to come in early. Who did? I've been here since the start, since this the project was just a pie in the sky dream that somebody brought to council. I don't, and if I'm wrong, I want it verified in the minutes, but I can never remember this being anything other than a 2024 project. So my question is, if it was a 2026 project, under whose authority? Because there was no motion made, no second, and no discussion that pushed this up to 2024. So why do people keep saying, you wanted us here, so we're here early? This has always been a 2024 project.
Mayor, when you say sooner, I don't know where that's coming from. Well, where is it from you?
No, it didn't come from me, but
You just said it though. I mean,
it's in the city's best interest if it's done sooner. Because we have water mains down there ready to move up. We know what it was like 4 years ago.
how do you know?
But we can put brand new PVC in there, and the next winter it'll run. You can't guarantee they're gonna break now, you can't guarantee the new stuff isn't gonna break. That's just the way it is. Yeah, we've got a chance of it not breaking, right, so I'll grant you that, but.
I'm against roundabouts. Tom's done a really nice job of talking about it, but it's not for us. There's just no advantage. You say you're saving money, but we're not saving money. It's a safety concern. You told me, last week, that you still haven't decided about those push button talking light things, and there's nothing with the roundabout for young people, old people. It's wrong. It's not for us.
You want me to answer that, or you want to take our Kevin's first?
Yeah, just a little bit on the timing of the project. So we did have this project out in the outer 20s. I don't know exact. It was out there in that 2027, 2028 timeline. And when I say this project, I mean, so our data was stating that the pavement was in need of something, right? So our materials engineer, which he looks at the health of we have 1,600 miles of highways in District 4 that we manage. And he gives us a, kind of good health report of our highways every year. And we run a van over all our highways, and it detects bumps, cracks, and the condition of the highway. So this was out in that outer 20s. However, I don't remember if it was 2 winters ago or 3 winters ago, somewhere in there, there was a pretty major water main break, I remember. And I know Don and Mr. Mayor came to MnDOT and asked would there be an opportunity to move this forward, a project of something. Where is it right now? And I remember it was in the outer 20s, and I think some of the comments were, we don't know if we can wait that long, right? So we got utilities that need to be upgraded, and so we cordially said, well, we'll see what we can do. And so we went back and looked at shuffling some other highway projects around, and we did. So that's how this project came to be in the year that it's in. It's 2024. So that kind of answers some of the timing side of it. And what we did is we delayed other projects because, we knew this was going to be a high dollar job. So we put a cost estimate on it and delayed other highway projects that we had in 2024. So that's how it came to be where it's at. Just some of the comments with the roundabouts. I'm detecting not a lot of roundabout fans in the place here. The district engineer in District 7, I was just down there last week. We meet once a month and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly around the state. Try to talk about best practices that are happening in other districts and things that we can work on. he was sharing kind of this downtown, he's in Mankato, so he's the district engineer in that district, in District 7. He was talking about the 22 roundabouts that they put in Mankato. And so I drove through a couple of them, 3 or 4 of them, and the city pulled out, I don't remember the number, if it was 7, it was a lot, 17 signals, something like that, it's a lot. And then took out all the signals and put in roundabouts. This is about 2 years ago, I think, something like that, maybe about 2 years ago. So they did what we're doing, is, taking out the signals, putting in roundabouts. The roundabouts, it's not just a safety, it's also the mobility of it. So, we got Highway 108 and 59. Part of our jobs is of course the safety side of it. We want to keep everybody safe that's traveling the highways, but we also got to move people, and Tom shared the study and some of the stats with me on the level of services on how it's declining, and it's showing to decline in the outer years specifically. It goes from a level of service, whatever it's at right now, to a lower level of service. And so for our district, a level of service F is pretty bad. In the cities, Twin, Minneapolis, St. Paul, that's okay. You're going to get by with the level of service F in the cities because there's so much congestion down there already. But congestion in our district is, although Fargo-Moorhead is we're starting to see more congestion over there. But in the greater Minnesota district, in our rural areas, we don't have a lot of congestion. So an F for us is not good. So we're looking at all those things, the safety, the mobility. When Tom shared with me about adding the signals and putting in the left turn lane, because the trucks currently can't, the turning movements aren't very good. So when we scoped this project, that was one thing that we wanted to improve was the turning movements. And we scoped it to improve the turning movements of the trucks. So by doing that, you have to do something at those intersections because there's not room. So we would be forced to put in a center left turn lane, which, with the closeness of the two signals, it's probably going to expand pretty much from signal to signal with the left turn lane. And you're gonna be forced to probably take away quite a bit of parking through there. I didn't see the design, but I'm assuming that was something like that. So by doing a roundabout option, you gain the parking back, you gain the mobility aspects. We switched the intersection up by County Road 22 and at Willow Street in Detroit Lakes there on 59. We used to, back in the day, if you guys remember, we used to come in and have to put squad cars, state troopers at those intersections to manage traffic because there was just too much traffic to flow through them. After we put those roundabouts in, we didn't need a state trooper. They funnel tons of traffic. Mobility can handle WeFest type traffic at roundabouts. So you get the mobility as a benefit, you get the safety as a benefit. So that's why you're seeing roundabouts around the state expand and expand and expand. And we continue to expand. We're adding 2 more down in Glenwood right now on a different project. But I can see that you guys don't feel it's the right thing. I respectfully disagree. I think it is the right thing for these intersections. We've just seen them work over and over and over, time and time again. And so we're not coming from we're not coming from an area of experimenting. We're coming from an area of experience. And so we know they'll work both safety-wise and mobility-wise. So that, lose my voice. That's why we're recommending the roundabouts.
So, I understand your expertise in the area, but I have a hard time believing that you understand the practicalities of the issue, because we have snow removal. We get snow up here, a lot of snow and ice. So 3 different times I asked the question, what do we do with snow removal? I got 3 different answers. First was, well, you just lift the blade so you go over the roundabout. Now, I make no pretense of being a snowplower, but pretty sure that if you lift the blade, you're not plowing snow, you're just driving over the patch. The other was that you guys take care of it, and you don't. because we just signed a service agreement with you on May 5th, or May 7th actually. And I asked if that was the same one that we sign every year, and I was assured that's the exact same thing we sign every year. And I don't have my tablet with because I have the contract number and everything, but it states in section 2 of the services that the city of Pelican Rapids is responsible for removing all snow, ice, and debris from the road. I've talked to MnDOT's own snowplow drivers, and they've told me the only thing we have to do for Pelican is make one pass through if the snowplows haven't been out yet when we happen to be coming through. So if you've ever been downtown in the winter when we've had a lot of snow, we've been lucky the last few years, but if we've had a lot of snow, our wide road gets pretty narrow. So if we're narrowing our roads and we're not making it easier for our snowplow drivers because of the medians and the roundabouts that are raised, I'm assuming they're raised, we're not making it easier for them to plow snow and remove snow. That's something we have to. You guys get to do the project. Partnership for Health gets to put the feather in the hat if they got bike paths through town, and you guys go to your own towns, and we are left to deal with the practicalities of the situation. We have to deal with the amount of semis that are going to be coming through these and going over them because they can't make the turn. We're going to have to deal with our school buses, our agricultural equipment, our fire services, the businesses that we have in town. We can't say they're going to have to change the way they do business. That's not our job as a city council. It's not our job as a government to tell a business how they should do or they shouldn't do business. It's the practical side that I'm concerned about, because I will get people talking to me about they can't open their car door because there's a snowbank there, because they can't clean the snow off, or the sidewalks are icy, or on and on and on. So I mean, I understand your expertise in some of the data saying that they are safer, but there are practical issues that once you leave, and Pelican has changed forever, that we will have to deal with forever. And there's no way to change them except to remove the roundabouts, which I'm sure you're not going to come back in 5 years and gracefully do it when you find that they don't work.
You know, as far as the maintenance goes, yeah, so our snow plows, when we first put our first one in, it was south of Moorhead on 75. You know, they weren't a fan of it. Had, you know, very, very nervous about plowing it. You know, now I don't know, I think we probably got maybe 10 of them in our district now, and we're gonna have more than that at some point, but our plows are getting pretty good at, you know, navigating through them and plowing around the roundabouts. As far as the streets and the narrowness side of it, yeah, there's probably some different practices that'll have to take place, you know, so I mean, this is probably I don't know, maybe 10 or some, about the 10th project we've done, a complete street type of project around our district. And do certain winter maintenance practices probably have to change? Absolutely. You know, and a lot of different communities have dealt with that in different ways. Some have taken it on as a city, some have, you know, worked out agreements with the businesses as far as snow removal in the winter. Some have hauled it away. You know, it's been a variety of things. You know, and that would, I'm not going to sit here and say nothing's going to change, because it might change. I mean, it might probably be different than it obviously is today. I know we do have a maintenance agreement with you guys. I don't know what it all entails. If you haul the snow away, I can't remember. I'd have to talk to my maintenance.
We're responsible for all the removal of the snow, ice, and debris, whatever that is.
So, you know, right now the way it's set up, and we don't have that with every community. We have it at only probably a handful that we pay for, and so that's unique. But there'll be a new construction and maintenance agreement through this project that we'll work through. But it's a variety. Some we do pay for, that snow removal. Some, most communities take care of that on their own. We don't pay for all those services all the time. But yeah, will it change? It likely will. Yeah.
Any questions, Bill?
No, I'll make a statement just about the roundabouts and winter travel after lunch. Commercially moved snow in the FM area, and it never fails. The streets are plowed, roundabouts are not. And, maybe your 52nd, your Cheyenne, or those ones are the big ones. The little ones going into these developments and down the straightaways into developments, nearly unpassable for the entire duration of the cleanup. The last thing done, somebody finally goes through on the port after it's driven down. A lot of times we'll push it past them ourselves because we can't really get our equipment to it. Maybe that's what they're relying on. I don't know. For the private industry, you just don't know if they're roundabouts. But I think you stated too, or Kevin, when they raise their plow to go through the roundabout, because it's easier, quicker, and it's what happens. And it gets blown in, and they're terrible, terrible. And hard on equipment, just like bump outs. I can't think of a plow driver I know personally that hasn't hit a bump out and just the windshield or whatever. Yeah, you learn that they're there in a hurry, but you're clear of them later too, so therefore narrowing the roadway.
The comment about raising our plows, we don't raise the plow going through the roundabouts. I know they keep their plows down. Now, the Center Island, they usually make a circle and they come in, they have, a lot of our plows will have a left-handed wing. We'll have, on our interstates, we have set up our plows with a left-handed wing and right-handed wing. But like the ones in Detroit Lakes or plows that are going to be plowing a roundabout will have a left-handed wing out, so we can take care of not only the driving lane, but they'll make another circle. They'll get that left hand or the inside circle. So I can only speak to what my maintenance folks are telling me and driving them. We live here. That's the other thing. We're only 20 miles up the road here, so we have MnDOT staff, people that work at our office there that live in Pelican Rapids. We drive through here. We come here and recreate also. So we want the best for Pelican Rapids too, but it's not. I don't want to sit here and say we want to bad things for Pelican Rapids. We want a win-win for everybody, right? We want to take care of our needs and also try to address your guys' needs. So it is a partnership. Unfortunately, maybe not everybody's going to agree on everything, but we want to be a really good project for many years. And Mr. Mayor's talked about the kids and our kids. We want them to have something that they're proud of and be able to use also. So I can just tell you, I'm just speaking from experience, we've done these projects before, and coming into them, there's a lot of skepticism, and on the tail end, there's a lot of applause. And that's happened over and over and over on these complete street type projects. We've had a lot of opposition through the years. One of our districts, and that's really changed over the last 10 years. We used to be more of a highway heavy agency, where we just really concentrated on the cars and the trucks, right? Well, over the last 10 years, we've changed big time. We've become much more of a multimodal agency. And as we can tell, people want to recreate, people want to walk, people want to bike. And we're seeing these projects over and over and over, and we're hearing the needs of the community. So we've adapted big time across the state of Minnesota. And a lot of your tax dollars are going to improve a lot of these smaller towns. And I can tell you, over and over and over, every town that we've gone through and done a major project like this, it spurs commerce big time. Businesses want to develop. Just outside investments come in. And we hear a lot of comments from the disabled communities that folks that could not normally get to from A to B now can get from A to B because of an improvement with ADA or ramps or a sidewalk that was put in. Those types of comments we do get. And so we are looking at, all those needs of all the modes, not just the cars and the freights anymore. So we do feel it's important.
So, say you're in a wheelchair, how do you stop the traffic then? I don't get that.
Yeah.
What's gonna make that?
Well, it's just like anything, you're supposed to yield. In Minnesota, you're supposed to yield to pedestrians. Not all states have that, but Minnesota has a state law, you are supposed to yield to peds and people. Once again, speaking from experience, we've had very, and Trudy probably has some of the stats on this, I don't know if Trudy, if you do or not, but when you compare the stats from a roundabout with pedestrian incidences compared to the signals, you have a lot less. And Trudy, I don't know if you have any stats on that or not, but.
Percent of, they're more likely to yield to a pedestrian in a roundabout versus a regular intersection is it maybe some percent, Tom?
83% yield at a roundabout versus 7% yield at a stoplight. That they're designed so the ped crossing is one car lane over from the roundabout. You make the corner and you see the crossing. So you see the people crossing the street. So you see, and the short distance across from the curb to curb. So you make that corner, your right angled car is facing the crosswalk, so you can see it in the crosswalk. We're at a stoplight, they're right next to you, so you're not looking at the crosswalk, you're looking at the stoplight, watching other cars go all different directions and turn, you don't see people in time. It happens, I'm sure, in towns here every day for people. It's a lot here in Memphis. Every town with this signal system, like pet crossings, people are distracted. We talk a lot about this, the point of conflict, and like you say, there's 32 points of conflict in an intersection or a stoplight. That's 32 places where people can hit somebody else. It's only 8 at a roundabout.
The one thing I think that MnDOT was asked to address was the traffic signals and not functioning at a very high level. One of the things we looked at was adjusting the signal to allow for the green arrow. That was studied as an option. It does not address the current issue of traffic backing up, traffic wanting to make that left turn. You're getting your long queues in the summer, people wanting to make lefts. Now they're going to wait for a gap and they're going to make a risky maneuver to make that left turn. And by doing that, trying to beat the light or trying to beat the next car that's coming, the pedestrian that's crossing, they're not looking for that. They're looking at their light, they're seeing that it's green. I have a gap in traffic, I'm going to go. That ped is at risk. And that's what this is addressing, is taking away that risk of traffic queuing, people getting impatient, making risky decisions. And that's MnDOT's focus now is on the safe systems. And people are going to make mistakes, but people shouldn't have to pay for those mistakes with their life. That's been MnDOT's focus now is towards the safe systems. And the roundabout will address that, and the traffic queuing problems that are happening, people getting impatient. You're going to see that more and more in the future as traffic volumes increase.
So what happens, people coming out of the eye doctor downtown, that's south of the south roundabout, or the south stoplights. If they're waiting to get out of there, traffic won't stop because they don't have no reason to stop it. They want to get out of Senex. They want to come from the east and try to come from between the old fire hall and the bank. There's going to be no traffic stopping because
You'll still have your
doesn't have
gaps.
to.
You'll still have your gaps in traffic as people are entering the roundabout and people are leaving the roundabout. People are having to yield within the roundabout. So that's going to still create your gaps in traffic.
But it's going to be short compared to how long we all know a stop sign is.
Yeah, you're only crossing the width of the lane versus the width of the whole highway. And
I think they're talking about vehicles pulling out into like I can tell you even today, you gotta wait for a red light when you wanna leave the center.
Yeah.
And you wanna go left,
Yeah.
or even right, left especially, you gotta wait for a red light. And that's a pretty short distance. I don't believe the roundabout gap would be adequate. You're still dealing with traffic coming, heading north, when you're trying to get across traffic that's heading south. You still gotta make sure you're clear to your south.
Is that an area where we're looking at a center left turn from?
We are, correct. Yeah, all the way north and south of the roundabouts, we are putting in a center left turn lane.
I think you'd be able to utilize that center left turn to get out, you know, crossing, even a vehicle could cross one lane of traffic at a time then, if you're trying to go make a left turn.
Are we, I'm sorry, I should know this, but are we keeping the block?
Pet crossing.
Pet crossing? Okay.
Yeah, we're adding multiple
Yeah,
steps.
'cause you got kind of an extended block.
You're
It's kind
talking
of-
downtown?
Yeah.
It's a longer block, no, it's a longer block than the regular block. So that's, I'm encouraged to hear that, that's good.
You just mentioned a center lane. Is that something new?
No, it's,
What were you just talking about?
we're down in front of the school, Don.
Well, let's go to the
Down.
southern, what did you say about center lane?
We have areas in project where we have, where there's no parking on both sides, like by the school. We have a center left turn lane. Sometimes to make a left turn lane.
And that's the Cenex too has it, and you'll have that center, it's actually a 3-lane section. So it'll be a center left turn lane that you'll be able to use.
I think it's,
That's new information.
We probably haven't been talked a lot about, we're talking about roundabouts for so long, we haven't gone elsewhere. But
I have one more. Is there a problem with the downtown, the pavement? We talked about milling and going over the top, but is there a problem with it right now? It looks great.
I
we take it.
I don't, yeah, I'm just,
Yeah, I mean, it's scheduled, it was going to be placed in 2028. That's when we decided it was looking at it, it was going to fail in 2028. That's when our project was originally scheduled for. And now we advanced it 4 years, the part of the saving on the project.
So that's new information to me also, right?
And two, Tom, the storm sewer system we have is in downtown area is bad.
Yeah, that's something else that's really into it.
Any other questions from the council?
Well, I don't have a question. I hope we're in agreement that we've got to fix water and sewer. We've had 2 breaks on Main Street. We've had to tear it up. The last one was a pretty big one. It happened in the middle of winter. But we've also had to do West Mill Street a few years ago when they had problems with that, and that got to be done. But we're well beyond the life of what was expected out of that water and sewer that was originally put in. And we've really got 3 options of what we can do with it. We can do nothing, which means every time it breaks, we're going to have to tear it up and fix that piece of it. Or we fix it. If we do it on our own, it's going to cost the business people millions more because they're going to get assessed for not only the water and sewer, but the streets. And we can do it in conjunction with MnDOT. We'll pick up a big part of that. Or we do it on our own, you know. The way I see it, those are our only 3 options. And the first one, doing nothing, is not a very good one to me.
Well, that water and sewer line, I think was put in the 1930s, so it's outlived its life expectancy at this point.
We've talked about the turn signals, and we did explore putting in a left-hand lane, and that would have taken a lot of parking spots away. I put that in there, and you still have some pretty good parking in the middle of the street, and you've got a little liquor store parking lot, which is underutilized at times, but it's there. But to me, roundabouts would solve the question of the problem of the left-hand turns. But I hope we are in agreement that we've got to do something about that water and sewer.
So it comes down to, do we want to pay for it all ourselves, or do we want MinDOT to help us?
Yeah.
And what cost?
Huh?
Anybody out there?
What,
At what cost? And again, if we're making the decision to entirely change our downtown based on nothing but dollars, which we can probably, we've done it before. I mean, you guys are making it sound like, you just said you've done a street project. We paid for them ourselves before. Our businesses are able to, and we've done it.
if we do it ourselves,
Yeah, but we've done it before.
yeah, we have, but they're going to get hit with more money than if MinDOT helps us.
But we're paying for that anyway because our money, our taxes pay for MinDOT.
Well,
If we want to go, you use that argument often. So, I mean, if you're going to use it once, you have to use it all across the board. I just want to hear from you guys. What we say isn't really going to matter.
any more questions, comments here from council before we turn it over to the when you come to the microphone, you want to address who you are?
Taller. Hi, Matt Strand. I'm a downtown business owner. All right, so good to see you again. I saw Tom earlier today at Escobar's. That was a more fun meeting. Yeah, we shouldn't have had so many margaritas, though. Anyway, on roundabout safety. Roundabout crash rates for vehicles, they're good. They're better than stoplights. But with that being said, when you take MnDOT's crash rates from the 2017 study of traffic safety roundabouts in Minnesota, the practical gain is insignificant. It would save us one minor injury crash every 22 years with a less than 1% increase in property damage on the crashes. So according to that original report, there were also significant double-digit increases in pedestrian and bicycle crash rates. MnDOT, since I brought it up last, has redacted that report, citing that the data was transposed in the report. So I don't know why they didn't put it in correctly, but it was redacted. That report was followed by a 2018 report. 2018 report was titled, it was an addendum to the 2017 report. The 2018 report takes a different analytical methodology of looking at bike and pedestrian crash rates. They take roundabouts before and after, but for the before group, they add in comparison intersections. The problem with this is actually when you dive into the data, the comparison intersections that were added to the crash rates are, I can get you the exact numbers, but very, very much higher. For the comparison intersections that were added, the pedestrian crash rate was 468% higher, and the bike crash rate was 51% higher. So when you added those with the pre-roundabout data, lo and behold, roundabouts are safer for pedestrians. When you isolate the data out for just before and after roundabouts, roundabouts have an 87% increase in pedestrian crash rate, and bikes have a 33% increase in pedestrian crash rate, which jives with the previous 2017 data that was redacted, although in that case, bikes were higher, pedestrians were lower. Go to the best practices for bike safety in Minnesota, January 2021. There, they're using a different metric called CMF, Crash Modification Factor. And these are a little harder to understand, but they're like golf scores. Lower is better, correct? So crash modification factor. And they also look at treatments. Treatments would be, what do you do to an intersection? So this would be evaluating a uncontrolled intersection and whether you put in stoplights or roundabouts. So they classify intersection treatments as proven, tried, experimental. Am I missing any? So proven means they've been widely deployed. Federal Highway has reviewed the effectiveness of the treatments. They work. Tried means they've been implemented a number of times. Results of the evaluations have not been fully evaluated or are inconsistent. So the CMF for stoplights with countdown timers, like we have, is 0.22. For roundabouts, it's 0.4. So if you put that into an actual percentage difference, 81.8.
That number that you're using, though, is that for a traffic signal with a left turn lane?
It said traffic signals with countdown timers. And this is for pedestrian crashes, not vehicle crashes. It didn't isolate out pedestrians versus bicycles. But the crash rate difference between the two is 81.8, or excuse me, the rate difference. I don't know if crash rate would be the proper terminology. That 81.8 number is strikingly similar to the 87% increase seen in the 2018 addendum. So beyond that, roundabouts are listed as a tried. I've also requested the intersection control evaluation documentation from Tom, and he said he would get it to me. But looking very much forward to looking at that. So from a roundabout standpoint, we don't have a big issue with vehicle crashes. We've been relatively safe. However, we're bringing in, hopefully, a lot of bikers into town, and we're looking at an intersection that has not been proven to be safer, and per MnDOT's data, looks like there's a significant crash rate increase. Mosquito nets prevent malaria, but we're not putting them in our beds here in Minnesota because we don't really have a lot of malaria to worry about. So that would be my one concern from safety standpoint in the roundabouts. Beyond that, roundabouts do take out a significant amount of parking. There was a 2016 study done, actually I think it was West Central Initiative and Pelican Rapids City Government, done by the University of Minnesota, called Pelican Rapids Business Retention Expansion Strategies Program. When they looked at that, there was a couple different things they analyzed. One was satisfaction with various community factors. Highways were rated 3.63 out of 4. People are generally very satisfied with our highways. It's one of the highest rated things. On the flip side, parking was rated the second lowest at 2.12, with 1 being poor, 4 being excellent. Parking was the second biggest concern for retail business in Pelican Rapids. And we're looking at changing up our intersections that our city is happy with, per this report, for taking out parking, which what we really need per that report. In addition, 41% of downtown buildings with active commerce do not have rear access. They have to go through Broadway, Miller, 108. All right, we're taking out their parking. Looking at taking out 14% of the downtown parking. What else do I have? Oh, another thing regarding the lane layouts. Business community put forward a good faith compromise for lane layouts, which consisted of 12-foot drive lanes, 7-foot bike lanes, 10-foot parking. That would leave a 12-foot sidewalk, or balance of however you want to call it, curb gutter, what have you. Very similar to what we have now, but added dedicated bike facilities. That would keep the bike facilities separated from the pedestrians, which is safer for the fast bikers. Children could still go on the bike facilities. In addition, there's no significant CMF difference between shared use paths and the on-road facilities. The on-road facilities are also said by MnDOT to be very good up to 35 miles per hour, which we're going to be, should be below. Do I have anything else for you guys? And that's a MnDOT approved layout. It's actually on page 5-40 of the Minnesota Bicycle Facility Design Manual. So I would like a response on why that's an unacceptable layout and why MnDOT can't compromise with us on that layout. And then I'll sit down.
So I assume you talked about the one that was in the petition, that layout?
Yeah, here's the
one where you had 7-foot, 5-foot in between the parked cars and through traffic, only like 2-foot boulevard.
We didn't specify boulevard.
That's one piece that you're missing.
So right now,
Boulevard needs to be at least 5 feet to be able to put signs and any lights in there.
so right now from the curb to the building, we have 12 feet total, whatever you want to call it. And in this proposal, we'd have 12 feet total. I fail to see the distinction. Correct, and that will enable Victory Homes to bring their oversized loads through without stopping traffic in every direction, to give us a little bit more safety when we're parking our cars. Snow removal will be much easier because it's all on one level. We can do a lot more of it with machinery. It'll leave less for the business owners to shovel. We got to do tunnels out to the parked cars, so our customers can get in. I really think it's a good faith compromise. Bikers are going to get their own dedicated facility. Bikers that are too timid to be on the road can still go down the sidewalk. Kids do it now. It's not a problem. It works fine. Over 104 businesses in the region endorse the plan.
One comment. When we had our public meetings 2 years ago, of Lake Region, we had all the different plans available. And there was a community support to put the bike traffic on the sidewalk instead of in the street. That's why they went with that plan, because that's what the community wanted.
Respectfully, the plan that's being presented right now by MnDOT was not up on the dot boards that night. The plan being presented by MnDOT currently was not on the dot boards that night. There were 3 options presented. One was the current layout. One was similar to what I'm proposing here, plus or minus a foot, but same order. The third layout was actually a dedicated bike path immediately next to the park-in with a little divider and then a sidewalk. So to my knowledge, this actually was not vetted with the community that night.
There's simply not enough room for a separate facility downtown Crawford Avenue if you want to keep 10-foot parking, 12-foot driving lanes.
What am I missing though in that 12 foot of sidewalk?
We have 40 feet center line to building space. So if you take 12 and 10, you're down to 18 feet left. So a bike lane, 7 foot, you have to have buffers on both sides of the bike lanes.
That's not what the bike design manual says.
You need buffers next to bike lanes. You need boulevards for signs and street lights.
If more than 7 feet are available, consider it a buffered bike lane.
Not next to the curb though.
No, it's right there.
Yeah, you have to have room for, behind your curb, you have to have a buffer behind that, a 2-foot obstacle-free zone. There can't be anything for, no street lights, no signs, anything in there. So the boulevard's got to be at least 5 foot minimum. The sidewalk has to be 8 foot minimum next to the door fronts, the door swings. So you have 8 foot wide sidewalk.
Adjacent to park,
Room for separate facilities.
adjacent to parking without buffer, minimum width is 5 feet.
I think, Matt, not knowing the whole typicals, but I mean, this would really come down to if the real estate's there. I don't think MnDOT's going to say yay or nay on which side. The bikes, this is kind of a community type of decision.
Well, this is bikes on both sides.
We've ran into this, I think, in other complete street type projects. Now, and most of them, I think, maybe all of them, I can't remember. There might be one out there that we didn't, but most of them, the cities did choose to put it up on top of the curb. They just, at the end of the day, they felt that was safer for their kids biking and those types of things, so they chose to put it on the back side of the curb. But you do see this around. We do have these types of facilities around the state. I've driven by them.
The on-road buffered bike lanes, CMF 0.65, shared use path 0.63. Shared use path is ever so slightly safer, but generally, in practice, you won't see a significant difference.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get an argument if the real estate's there, if we have the right of way for it. This would be a community decision. I don't see why we would have an opinion on whether the bike lane's on the back of the curb or the front, if the real estate's there.
It's not.
But if the real estate isn't there.
But we have 12 feet of sidewalk right now, and it houses all our signs, lights, everything we need.
You have 12 feet, correct. That is, now, at MnDOT standards, new MnDOT standards, the sidewalk in front of doors need 8 foot minimum. So now they need 4 feet. And we want at least 5 to 6 feet in boulevard. We do. And you have to have room for your signs, your street lights, and everything else in there. And if you want trees and plants and stuff in there, you gotta have room for that.
We prefer the effective sidewalk.
Some people do. And this has been, like, we had this meeting 2 years ago, the business meetings all around town here. And this typical was put up on, and it was not favorably selected. People don't want to ride their bikes if they park cars through traffic.
Respectfully, the typical got slightly less dots than the other one, but they were both overwhelmingly popular.
Tom, I'll just ask, would this be an option you could bring to the public meeting, or assuming that the right of way is there and there is room for it?
This is the option the 104 business owners endorsed. And that is most of the property owners behind between the stoplights, almost all of them. and most of the property owners along the way through the whole commercial district.
Once again, if the right of way's there, I don't know if MnDOT really has an opinion. I would say it's kind of a community decision. If the real estate is there, you've got the stats in front of you, and you're both safe. I'm just giving you, I think most of I've seen it all, different around the state, but in our district, most of the communities, if not all, have chosen to put it on the backside of the street.
Right, but the beauty of this for us is for oversized loads, our agricultural equipment, our homes that are going through, our heavy equipment, we have space that they can, use that bike path, assuming there's not a conflict at that exact time with the biker, and then we got to figure it out. But, by and large, it would work great.
For this context, it might be a good solution.
All right, I'll leave you guys alone. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience?
My name's Everett Ballard, and with respect to your one comment about this is what the people had chosen, that was kind of like that was the lesser of the three evils. And at that time, there was no roundabouts, weren't even in the discussion a year and a half ago when we started this. Couple things, we talked the last meeting, with 12-foot driving lanes down Main Street, there is no way physically safe that our fire department will be able to go north or south through that Main Street. And you said, well, each vehicle is 8.6. Well, 3 times 8.6 is 25.5 feet. We measured trucks today. In fact, I was heading down to the fire hall this afternoon when they got called out on a fire. There's no way they're going to be able to get through Main Street if you continue with 12-foot driving lanes. You're going to have people going both ways, and they're going to have to try and get through. It's not going to happen. So what are they going to do?
How wide is it? What'd you measure?
What's that?
How wide is it? What did you measure?
How wide is what?
How wide? What did you measure today?
Mirror width to mirror width, 8.6.
I mean, our plows are, I think 11 with the mirror, with everything on and the mirrors out. I want to say 11 and a half.
11 wide.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so now put 3 of those together going down Main Street. It's not going to happen.
He's saying if there's
I've talked to many fire people. Actually, I invited the fire chief here today specifically for this because there's just not going to happen. There's no way that they're going to be able to get through, and that includes the ambulance crews. I talked to a state trooper on Tuesday. He hadn't heard of it, and he thought there's just no way it's going to work. I had a retired trooper call me last week, and he was just livid. He said, "There's no way this is going to work." And as far as your left turn stuff, I don't know who's pushing this delay and backed up traffic, because it's not coming from the people of Pelican. Chances are it's probably the tourist community, and if that may be, but you're talking 12 Fridays out of the summer, and that's about it. Why can't you put a timer on and have the lane going south? Why can't you just put a timer on that and have that turn green for 30 seconds longer than before the other one gets going?
That was looked at, extending and having a green arrow just for that purpose, and it still doesn't solve the problem. It only lets the first few go, and you still have the problem, and people are getting backed up and will get impatient and make poor choices and try to...
But we haven't had accidents there.
There was a pedestrian accident at one of the signals.
When?
Recently, but we've talked about roundabouts and pedestrians. MnDOT's own data doesn't support it.
I purposely last Tuesday drove through Detroit Lakes with my truck to go through that mini roundabout at M&H there, Washington and Willow, and that was whoever's got the most guts is going to go through there, because there was no controlled intersection for pedestrians or nothing. I mean, they just go.
I travel through there daily and...
Yep, but you're looking at, and that's the problem, is you're comparing those. They have just a minute fraction of the truck traffic that we have coming through town. There is just no way. So, but how are you going to address this fire department issue? They have to come from the south. Over 80% of their calls go north.
He's saying if people stop northbound and southbound, that you won't be able to get through.
They're not going to be able to get through. There's no place for them to pull over. if you got vehicles parked in both parking lanes, they're not gonna make it.
Is there alternative routes, or, I mean, is there?
You're gonna alternative route the fire department? We have two ways through this town. We have two ways through town.
So here's what the scenario is, so everybody, the gridlock on 59, is that what the scenario is?
What's that?
So nobody's moving or something, somebody crashed, or what, why is 59 not moving, I guess that's my question.
Well, if they have to move over for the fire department, where are they gonna go? The trucks aren't gonna be able to, people aren't gonna be able to move over to the parking lanes far enough to get out of the way for the fire trucks to get through town.
I see what you're saying.
And I mean, I don't know why we need to have bike paths downtown. I mean, why, you've got parks. We've got a park trailhead. It's not gonna be anywhere near downtown. I mean, who would wanna put a bike path down Main Street or on the sidewalks when your trailhead is gonna be a block off of there anyway to hook up to these trails? I'm sorry, but bicycles aren't shoppers. They're not, if bicycles were out shopping, there'd be a bike rack in front of every store. I mean, put the,
In Battle Lake, we've added bike racks along the downtown.
yeah, but your street's like 300 yards wide compared to what we have. I was just through Battle Lake last week forever running roll-offs over to Henning. I mean, you're comparing rocks to oranges there. I mean, there's no.
But I was just saying you can have bike racks in downtown.
Right, but we don't need 12 feet of sidewalk. We need, I would say at minimum, we'd need 2 more feet of driving lane for those trucks to get back and forth where they need to go. I mean, there's just common sense. That's where the dollars and cents versus common sense comes in. If it's gonna be that tight, I mean, I wouldn't want my family to be in a car crash somewhere waiting for the fire trucks to get through. And you can say all you want, but I can guarantee you that's what's gonna happen. You'll probably have a accident with the fire department right down the middle of Main Street.
Thank you, Eric.
I better segue that one. Hello, my name's Trevor Steves. I'm the fire chief. Everett asked me to come, and I have to apologize that I haven't been at any of the other public meetings. We've talked on the sidewalk and on the phone about some stuff. I am also associated with the school district. Have a few questions. The lane width, like Everett was talking about, right now, if we get a call, we do have most of our calls going to the north and to the west, which we take West 108. When we come down Main Street, we have parked cars on both sides. We have traffic. Traffic just they turn towards the parked cars and we go down the center lane. Works very well. So that is a big concern. It's a 2-block area, but you know that we're dealing with congestion. You know, that's kind of the whole gig here. I get with the roundabout, the whole idea is to get traffic through faster, but it still is going to jam up. So if there's some way, and I'm not saying I have the answers, I'm just saying I have a problem, and I don't have the answer. I'm expecting you guys to hopefully fix it. So we have that. Then when we talk about the roundabouts, the one on Highway 59 and 22, is this the road that goes south side of WeFest? Yeah, awesome. That thing works so good. I'm very impressed. I've been through it 3 or 4 times in the last month, and I followed a full-size 53-foot semi-trailer, and that guy handled it no problem. Or I shouldn't say guy. The driver handled it very well. Is that size of roundabout be able to fit where our 2 are? So we don't physically have the space to accommodate something of that size. It works great. I also have been on the one down by M&H, and when I came up to it, people came from the east and the west and just drove over it. And it's kind of like, I agree with Everett that it was kind of uncontrolled, and I was in a large pickup, so I wasn't feared for my life. So we made it through. But I do agree, both of those on 59, even the one farther north, works great. But get really concerned that we don't have the real estate to accommodate that. The other thing is we talked about pedestrians, and I think you touched on it just a little bit, Tom. Maybe putting in the push button lights for crossing is, I would like to see that if this comes down to it and we have these, that there has to be something. I would think for ADA that they would have to have, like we just installed those. Those boxes, and they push them and they tell you when to go. Is that required or not? Oh, it's not. Even with your ADA guy around, I would really like to see that, because I know how many people cross on a daily basis from the drugstore across, to the west side of the street, and even on the north side. So that's something that, if this is something we're going to have, my father would cross with his little scooter on the at the light there, right at the drugstore, and the light was very helpful. I cannot imagine how he would have got across with a roundabout and nothing to flash or stop or to warn people, other than him just getting out into the traffic, and then I would think, oh, that might be a little too late. So also, contrary to popular belief, we do have accidents at our stoplights. We've had 2 in the last month, okay? Nobody's gotten hurt, but they've been minor, but we do have accidents. You cannot have people on the roadway and not have accidents. So it's inherent with everywhere we go. Trust me, we go to a lot of them. So that's all I got. Like I said, I don't have answers. I just have more questions. Thank you.
So I think you've addressed before that the roundabout size that you're proposing is smaller than the ones on 59, but bigger than the ones on Washington.
That's correct.
So there's 2 on Washington.
Yeah, right.
Then they're the same size as the 2 on Washington.
They actually built the one, I know this engineer that designed that one, and they built the other one bigger. They built the other ones just south bigger. I think they'll openly say that that one was too small. If they would have had to do it again. The one at the north end. They could have made it bigger. They designed it that way, and so they learned their lesson a little bit, and they designed that one to the south bigger.
But both of them are closed down for upgrades to pedestrian safety, aren't they?
I don't know, what do you mean?
I believe they raised the lead on the south one this spring. It was something about the curb was off, and it was too short or something, so they made them upgrade it.
I think I saw it in the paper, but you can't always believe what you read in the newspaper.
The curb is more abrupt too on that south one by the hotel. They're not gonna just go up and over that one. So I think if they would have had to do it over again, they would make the north one, or the north one larger and then more abrupt. But I guess how much larger is the one that we're designing compared to the one at the hotel?
It's quite a bit larger. The center island for ours is about 4 feet in diameter bigger, and then outside range is actually 10 feet bigger. This summer we did that double project in the turkey plant. I know people thought that was kind of a fake deal, but it really wasn't. We built the exact same thing that we're putting in the north intersection. And there's a few people here that drove that thing, and it surprisingly handled large vehicles really well. I mean, the bus fit no problem, and you pulled a SUV and a boat and a pontoon around there, and he drove a big wet irrigated through there, and I mean, it had one truck did complete 360 around it. It can handle large vehicles. It can. And the trickiest part was right turns were trickier, so you can't see your mirror really well. But the left turner, it was around there, no problem whatsoever. They handle large loads, they just, everything is mountable. The center of island and the islands on the side, they're all mountable for large vehicles.
With crew members all the time, Washington, MnDOT wasn't involved with those, the city and the engineering.
MnDOT does review their ice reports.
Any other questions from the audience?
Hi, my name's Ellie Litzinger. I'm the Minnesota Green Corps member working here in Pelican Rapids for the next year. There's been one question that's been bugging me ever since I started learning about this project. So say we do decide to go through with the roundabouts, how will through traffic be handled during construction? Because highways 59 and 108, it's a major intersection that runs for our city, and between the two proposed roundabouts, there's a lot of local businesses that depend on tourist traffic, and also tying into the last two questions, what if there's an emergency vehicles that need to go from one side of town or the other, or school kids who live on the northern side of town and with the schools on the southern side of town, how will they get through if there's no way to get the cars through, or school buses?
Well, just on the chief, we want something that works too, so we don't want to jam up.
Is your question though during construction or final product?
It's during the construction process itself.
For our emergency services, and I imagine for any law enforcement coming through town, just like Everett had mentioned, they talked to troopers, and we do have, state patrol and county and local that have to respond, and fire ambulance. We would end up doing like they did when it was shut down. That the main, it was shut down 3 years ago, whatever, in the winter. We had to use the bridge on the west side. And then, so for us, we have to go out and around by the elevator and take that gravel and go that way. That's, how we're gonna have to work it out for construction. No different than, when they shut down a county road or any other state road for construction. But that's a good question.
Maybe, Tom, you should touch on the pedestrians too, so, so when we do our projects, you're gonna have to make it so that sidewalks are open so people can get through. We stage things so not everything's tore up all at once. So there's ways that we do temporary walks and things so people can get through the downtown area. Now, is it perfect? No, but you do your best so that people can get through while you're getting things dug up. Obviously, if you're digging down the sanitary water in the middle of the roadway, you've got a pretty big hole that you're kind of stepping your way through. But the idea is to get the sidewalks, or temporary sidewalks, so people can still go around best you can. I think that's what you're getting at. So it's not like from 108 south to 108 north, no one's going to be able to walk. It gets staged out so that as your pole advances, people can come from one way to the other, or the other side of the street is open for them going through. So that's what you're getting at.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
One more about like turning lanes. Because I have that idea of where you at, and that one's not good, you said. Why, I see that word, why couldn't
it clears the first few cars.
No, it's not longer. Why?
Not on part of the turn.
When they can go straight or left, or let them go for whatever. So why wouldn't that work? I have no idea. I see that.
It wouldn't be any different than it is now. It's only going to clear the first 3 cars, and then we have to let 59, we have to let the main line go through. So it's only going to clear the first few cars. As soon as you get some cars to go straight, it's not going to trigger there's a sensor that's detecting how many cars are turning left. If people keep turning left, the green will stay. As soon as two cars go straight, that left green arrow is not needed anymore. It's going to go away, and now you're back to the next car that wants to turn left is going to be waiting. And you're getting the cue because there isn't a dedicated left turn lane for people to wait in.
We don't need sensors, we like green, let people go straight, go left.
That thing was back before 2014, and we changed it to loops in the road. It used to be just on timers. So then you're stopping for nobody, it turns red and, yeah.
But it was equal on both sides. I mean, let one side go ahead. I mean,
That was looked at as an option.
no, it didn't get very well. It was the best idea.
I guess would it work to, we eliminate a parking spot in front of the law office heading southbound at that intersection of 108 and 59, 108 east and 59. So that when it's green and people aren't waiting to turn left, you're still able to get around to go, the through traffic is able to go around that car waiting to go left.
That's only then the one car. If there's more cars that are wanting to turn in, it's still not solving the problem.
What you're saying, Steve, is one operation at a time.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so northbound is stop, and southbound is left or going through, both sides are all stopped. So then that will stop, and then it's northbound will go, then the southbound car will back up always next intersection.
You only have left turn movements on two of the directions, though. So you only have left turn movements necessary at 108 east heading south on 59, and basically if you're inside of the downtown area. The other directions, left turns kind of bring you to nowhere. That's not part of the problem. It's really only 2 of the 4 left turns that are problematic.
Yeah, we've been hearing about this over 10 years. You know, Pelican Rapids has come to the Mid-Don and said, you know, mobility in Pelican Rapids is bad. People are backing out. You know, they've been here with us for many, since back in 2011, first time I was down here with the city council, talking about left turns at intersections backing up. You know, and our report, our report, you know, supports that concern people have. I mean, you're right, is it working okay? It is working okay today. You know, but planning for the future, like this job does, you know, in 10 years, it's going to fail. In 20 years, it's going to be completely failed. And then my gridlock, that's going to be here in 20 years. Because
But then we'll
vehicles...
be ready to come back, because that's 20 years time.
Yeah.
Any more audience
Come on,
questions?
Kevin. Have a good one.
My concern is safety.
Do you want to address yourself?
Rick Westby. I get pretty nervous when I get in front of a bunch of people. But safety, how about these little kids that come from school to the roundabout? It's a confusing entrance for those kids. Green means go, caution means caution, stop, red is stop. These little kids come there and they don't know what the hell to do. And there's going to be a bunch of them going to the swimming pool, coming from the school. They're going to go into a not a very good situation.
Education is a piece of the puzzle,
Oh,
too.
yeah, okay, education. There's 3 trucks coming here, 1 here. You're going to educate a 8-year-old on that? Good luck.
Anyone else?
From an education standpoint, though, Daniel Tiger does teach my son. From an education standpoint, Daniel Tiger does teach my son what to do at a stoplight.
Anyone else? Anyone else?
So, again, I just want to be clear. Make it crystal. This is the only option we are being presented with. We have no other option other than a roundabout.
If you want to increase mobility and safety, everything else, the only option that will increase all that is the roundabout. Earlier, you know, you mentioned, you know, the single system of left turn lanes. one thing we overlooking there is the right turns. If we had center left turn lane down the center of 59, the right turns is going to be worse than it today. So northbound 59 to 108 east today is terrible. Now, if we're pushing that truck over 12 feet of the center left turn lane, it's going to be even worse. Same thing with 59 south and the 108 west. It's bad today. If we're pushing them over to the center left turn lane, it's going to be even worse. So the right turn movement is prohibitive with a center left turn lane design through downtown Pelican Rapids. And that was dismissed 6-7 years ago, last time we were talking about that. It was dismissed in our DE study this spring, we talked about it. So the only option where you want to solve mobility and the safety benefits is moving off.
So this is the only option we get to choose from.
Well, I think, we could look at this bike idea.
Do you understand that eliminates roundabout? It leaves the signal lights in.
I was thinking it was with the roundabout option.
If we're keeping the bikes on the down pavement in between parked cars and through traffic, how do we get them through a roundabout? Safety. We don't have room for that. It's still, we just don't, it's not going to work at that roundabout design.
I'm catching the peripheral of this, so I didn't know some of the history of what's happened. So it sounds like this option has been vetted with the roundabout option, and it's been vetted out. It's not real.
And that will put us back down into our narrow lane then though, which is, I think, over the top balance concern with emergency traffic. I mean, if you have, cars parked on both sides of the road, which you will, and with having no room for a third vehicle, north and southbound traffic in that third vehicle, that's going to happen. And that's going to happen a lot more than, we have a huge call for service area up here, whether it be law enforcement, EMS, or fire. That's going to occur regularly here, that scenario. You can say, what are the odds? Well, it's pretty damn high here in Pelican. I've been both EMS, law enforcement, never firemen, never winners. It's tight anyway. You got to get somewhere real quick. But this would make it impossible.
I'm assuming people would pull over.
They can't pull over with cars parked on both sides of the road, north and south parking.
Yeah, a car is about 6 feet, and we have a 7-foot parking in Alexandria. Don't get me wrong, that one's tight. It's tighter than we would wish. So they got 7-foot parking on both sides, northbound and southbound. Granted, you got 4 lanes of highway there, so you got more movement. You got a lot more real estate to work with. But a car would have, I suppose if a fire truck was there and somebody's parked there, you still got you're gonna have some room there. You got a 10-foot parking lane, which is that to the back of the curb, or is that with the curb?
That is the base.
To the base of the curb. So you got 10 feet of total area to work with there. So you're gonna have, roughly.
And as we saw happen on that road downtown, when people pull up next to the curb, some hit it. Most stay away from it. Which will also reduce your width. Because people got to get out of the car, they ain't out standing on the side of the curb. Get out on the street and then step onto the curb.
Yeah,
so you don't get that,
especially in the winter.
You don't get that 7 to 10 feet or whatever, almost ever, your usable space.
Yeah, I'm gonna go off of that. So I'm the manager at the elevator. Fridays busier than downtown.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm going down. Peter Scott with the elevator manager in town here. Friday's busy, as we all know. Cars parked both sides. We're coming through the floater, the sprayer. They're about 10 to 11 feet wide. Probably about 12 feet with mirrors. Now we go downtown with cars parked, and we meet a fire truck. What do we do?
You'd have to clear it down.
It's Friday, they're jam-packed. We can't back up.
Well,
Fire truck can't back up.
one of the big things, the advantages of the roundabouts is you're not stopping people, so people are always moving, you know, and it shouldn't, there shouldn't be an option where people are stopped. I mean, it shouldn't happen, not with roundabouts.
Yeah, I mean, we were downtown today. I mean, there's a fire today. We were out floating today. He came through town. I don't know what happened during the fire or not, but it happens.
So, again,
So,
to be clear, we're partly cloudy right now. Roundabouts are the only option that MnDOT is presenting for downtown Pelican.
Yeah, to address the mobility part of it. You know, I've heard the pros and cons of trying to deal with the mobility side, and I just don't know how you address the mobility with the turn lanes, getting left turn lanes in there without the roundabout option. Unless you wipe out all the parking, and widen the whole road, widen the typical, how do you do it without wiping out all the business parking?
Can we have the ice report?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I don't see another way of doing it without taking out a whole slew of parking to get the turn lanes in.
So if we were to leave it as is,
If that's not an option, you'll leave it as is.
And walk away? I suppose that's an option.
do our road project, do our street recovery, do our, whatever your project in 2028 was going to be?
I think in 2028, we would have done something just like this to address the mobility side of it. We might not have done 25 blocks of sewer and water, but I think we would address the signal issue in between the downtown. We might have done another mill and overlay and got us, another 20 years of life. I think this was done in 01, if I remember. I started with MnDOT in 2000. I think I was here in 01. I was an engineer on this one back then. But so we got 20 years of life out of it. So I would say we probably do like a mill and overlay again and reconstruct the downtown with roundabouts and fixing the mobility piece of it.
Even if the community and the business owners don't want it.
Kevin, I don't know what else, so it's my responsibility as a district engineer to address these concerns. We want a win-win with the community, which, I think that's why Tom's been, down here trying to work with options and trying to figure out what is the best solution. Do we want to shove this down your throat? No, we'd rather have consensus between the two parties here, but I have a responsibility to address safety, mobility, address all modes of traffic. What I mentioned earlier, we're a much more multimodal agency. So I'm trying to address all modes, and this is, in my opinion, the only alternative that address all modes. And when I'm hearing that there's a level of service of F in the future, that would be a miss on MnDOT's part if we would make that improvement.
I think there's a question, Kathy?
Kathy Arnson, and when you made the comment that, that the roundabouts would never have where it's stopped traffic, well, on Friday afternoon it is going to be. Friday afternoons, there's a lot going on here, just for a few hours every week. But there are times where our whole street is blocked, and then if we're all sitting in the roundabout waiting to go and the fire trucks come, we have no option of getting out of their way. What do we do? There's a lot of very nice lake homes. I don't see one person here who owns those, but there's on that end of town and out there's a lot of homes, and they pay a lot of money in taxes. And when they hear that the fire truck got the call, they were out like they were supposed to be, but then they sat because one of the roundabouts was clogged. I just can't imagine how livid they're going to be and who they come back at when things don't get taken care of as timely as they would have been. This has worked for us all these years. There's room for us now to get out of their way, and we do it. But if we're stuck on a Friday in those roundabouts, I mean, I would feel horrible if they're trying to get through and we have nowhere to go.
Thank you. Can I say something? My name's Scott Berry, and I got Victory Homes on the north end of town. Your roundabouts on 59 up north, you're talking about a 53-foot trailer making through there with ease, that would be a piece of cake. We pull 16 by 80s up and down the road, and we make it. We got this much room on the back with the signs, we got this much room on a mirror in the front. We can do that. What I would think is the problem is take your bicycles. I got property over by Perm on a lake over there too. I'm dealing with the same damn bicycles over there. Take your bikes and run them through the park like's been said. Leave me have enough room to pull a house through. I'm not the only guy pulling wide load on this 59. This is a major highway. And we're not the only ones that have a wide load. The bicycles I see is the problem. And you could do whatever, leave your damn roundabouts if you want. I'll drive over the top of them when I go through with the house. These ones will be easy for me compared to those. I think you need to take the bikes and get them the hell out of the middle of town. That's what I say.
Thank you.
Not knowing the history, Tom, has a shared use path, is that the current design?
Yeah.
A shared use path, okay.
Any other questions? Any other questions?
When they talk about, do I have to get up there?
State your name.
Kerry Johnson. When you talk about mobility, what are you talking about? Ease of going, you want a steady flow of traffic going through town?
Turning movements for the trucks.
Without stopping? Okay, how does that help the businessman who, when we have a stop and go situation now, it's probably 25 to 35 seconds where you stop at a stop sign where a visitor or somebody out of town looks around, oh, there's a Pelican over there. Let's stop and see. Whereas you've got a steady flow of traffic going, if that's the purpose of roundabouts, going around, keep them moving like it. Versus someone stopping and looking over, oh, there's Wells Fargo, or there's a bank here or a law firm there, where 30 seconds people get a chance to look around versus roundabout, keep them going, just like cattle. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I'm not a business owner. And then you're talking up here at the rehab center. I'm getting older, my wife's getting older, and I had to take her down to the rehab center quite a bit. And there's seniors pulling into the parking area by the rehab center. And are you removing any parking spaces by the rehab area? That's where the cannon is. That'd be a longer walk if you were removing parking space from there for those seniors that need to get in that rehab center.
Tom,
Leave it on where that even is.
The answer is yes.
It's not far from the hardware store.
Back to the north.
Be the north intersection in the southwest corner.
Two doors up from the cannon.
Yeah.
Two doors down south.
You take out at least one.
There might be one spot at the intersection, but yeah, not very many down there.
There might be one spot removed, but that is like a restaurant having a lot of customers coming there in the morning. In the winter and even year-round, you're going to find older people like myself that don't want to walk very far, and removing one parking space there is going to make a big difference to them getting in that rehab center.
If the signal, I'm not saying I would support this, I'm just saying if the signals went back in, how many, what would it do to the downtown parking? To address
If we're adding left turn lanes,
You gotta add the left turn lane, with the left turn lane.
we're gonna lose half a block on each side.
Is the city willing to do that?
What if you eliminate the bike path? That'll save you 12, 14 feet. That's enough for a turn lane.
Yeah, the truck turn will still don't work for left turn lanes at these intersections. I'll show you again, Matt. Let me show you again. This is the north intersection. So if we have left turn lanes here, so this now is a left turn lane for vehicles making left. The right turns are now over here. Whoops. Sorry, Don. So currently they drive over here and they make this right turn. It's a struggle today. And now if the cars are 12 feet over or 14 foot over in that left turn lane, this radius turning forward is worse. So then we have to buy right away, move this stuff, and make this take away parking lot to make a truck that's ready movement. It's the same thing on the other one. The right turns, this is something that we can't overlook either. Without a lot of trucks make this movement, I would imagine, right? And same thing with the other one on 108, go east, northbound 108 east, same thing. This is one way going east, a lot of trucks. I see, they just move. I saw it today, I was there talking with bike people. I saw 5 semis make this right turn. So now if they're 12 feet over, or 14 feet over, driving through here, they cannot make this turn, unless they do something like that. So the right turn is a tricky maneuver that we can't overlook.
Any other questions?
One quick question. So that if the city council votes to walk away, what happens?
We would push the project.
What's that?
We would likely push the project.
You would do the project?
Push it out.
back.
You know, and.
There's an option, guys.
This is a big investment for our district. We would take that money and reinvest it in other highways. What we would do is push the project out, and in 2028, I'm not saying in 2028, the downtown wouldn't see a recommendation like this. It's, you know, it's a big investment, but we somehow got to address whether it's taking out all the parking or the roundabout option, but we somehow got to address the mobility side of it.
Regarding the right turn lanes, there currently is one in front of the cannon. Coming from 108 going eastbound, turn right onto 59, there is a right turn lane. Any of the semi guys drive through that?
Every day, I see trucks drive through that.
If you take 108 west and go 59 south.
Hanging right at the cannon.
Correct. Now I'm going to come down 59 southbound to go 108 west.
It'd be identical.
It's not. Just because the left turn lane will push all through traffic to the right on both sides of the set of left turns. So now the through traffic that's going south is now, you know, farther over to the right side, which makes right turns even more difficult.
Right, but they make it.
What if they make it?
They make it.
They won't.
Tom, did you have a layout just like this with circles?
No.
Did it?
Yeah, I'm just drawing.
Most of the trucks that go south on 59 coming off of 108 west pull almost to the middle of the street.
Correct.
They don't go in the right lane, they almost pull to the middle of the street to make that right turn.
Which they'll still do in the event of a roundabout. Because they're still gonna go right, and the flow will let them go right. But you have the divider in there to direct people to the direction of travel. They're still gonna have to pull out onto the drive over roundabout because they're a big truck and cut it back to the right. It's not gonna, the only difference is they'll have to pull out over the roundabout more than just encroach over to the right to make sure their trailer can make the corner. You know, because now they'll be blocked from that left paved lane to go right. because of the, what do you call that town?
Splitter Island?
Yeah, Splitter Island, that's what you call it.
I kind of got with Councilman Foster. I think that water main is got to be people's number one thought. Because, Matt, I can't imagine if that thing broke in front of your store and come through your basement, that you wouldn't come up here and raise hell with the city hall. You have millions of dollars worth of inventory in that building. So I think that's just got, I hear you. I'm not a business owner, nor am I a taxpayer in Pelican Rapids, but if Pelican Rapids had to foot that whole bill, I can't imagine what your taxes would be downtown.
The new plumbing will freeze and break just like the old did.
Well, there's a hell of a lot less chance of that, but, and you know that.
Yeah.
You don't build a new house
Yeah.
and put in old pipes.
Yeah.
But so I'm just thinking economically for the viability of Pelican Rapids, which is a fragile system, everybody's got to agree that you guys don't want to front a whole project, right? You Main Street businesses, could you imagine what the tax burden would be on you guys?
But it would benefit the whole city, so to be fair, the entire city would be taxed, not
Yeah,
just the.
well, no kidding, but what would that be? Don, have you run the numbers?
No, but from what we understand is to get all this stuff done right now, the street portion, the surface portion of it, we're still waiting for the final numbers, but I think they're estimated around $6 million. But that has the street portion, not the water sewer portion. That's another $6-7 million. But the street surface, the surface improvements, with that $6 million, that also includes the pedestrian infrastructure going north, south, east, west that we've been talking about doing. So you take all that out, because if MnDOT decides to move this down and we still have to get to that infrastructure, it's going to be millions, there's no doubt. But what we'll also be losing is all that pedestrian infrastructure, because the city's not going to be able to afford to put all that in also. So we're losing the we can put it in someday, but it probably won't happen as fast as we'd like it to happen, unless the taxpayers are willing to pay that. But I'm guessing that if we have a water main break, the one we had in 2017 or 2016 just happened to be right at the worst place it could be in the intersection, and so everybody had to be diverted. But if it happens between the downtown, that particular one cost the city about $120,000, $130,000 for one water main break. And MnDOT was nice enough at that point to take care of all the detouring, and they sucked up some of the bill on that. To have any water main break or sewer main break between the downtown area, between the lights down there, it's the same scenario. Everybody has to go around. The detouring and everything, will MnDOT pick up $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 like they did last time? I don't know. But my guess is if we had to do it alone and break up all that concrete underneath the street, it's probably going to be $6 million, $7 million, $8 million to get to our infrastructure additional that we would not have to pay for. So
I just think economically, it sucks that it's tied to their decision. I get that. But Kevin, you say that we can't look at the dollars. You have to look at also saving your downtown businesses, because if you taxed them just on $1 million, when we were looking at the swimming pool stuff, the tax impact it would have on businesses was a lot.
Yeah,
and that's just minimal compared to this whole project.
The pool, if I recall, where that stands right now is about a $3 million project. And I don't know, Matt, if you ever looked, or any of you guys that are on Main Street, if you ever looked at what the tax impact of that pool is going to be at $3 million, now take that and times it by 4 or 5. Because that's about what this is going to cost the city.
$15 million.
Well, 6 million of it, 6 to 7 is just to get our water and sewer. And then the other, I'm not even sure what, until we get the final numbers from MnDOT, what is it costing them to break up all that concrete and pull all that stuff out of the center of the road for them to get to their their storm drain system, which allows us to get to our water and sewer. If they don't do that and we have to go forward with our water and sewer, we're gonna be taking all that street up, all of it. The only thing we won't have to take up is a sidewalk, but we'll have to do curb to curb and pull it all out of there, which has all that rebar in the middle of it. I don't know, Tom, if you guys have had a breakdown yet, how much that portion is costing MnDOT, because that portion won't be MnDOT anymore, it'll be city.
Yeah, I think you're pretty close, Tom, those numbers seem about right.
So yeah, we're probably looking at 10, 12, 15 million dollars. Actually, it'd be easily north of 10 because 6 million of that's just our water and sewer.
Currently. Price is going up.
Well, that's the other part of it. When will we do our water and sewer if we don't get it done in 2026 or 2024? The longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. And I think it's irresponsible. I don't have the answer either, but I think it's very irresponsible for us to not deal with this water and sewer issue, because every water main break, if it caught, we could have 2, 3 in a year at $150,000 a crack. If it's on Highway 59, that's irresponsible. And should have been done in 2020 or 2003 or 2001. That's when it should have happened in Pelican Rapids. And it was a argument and butt head MnDOT in the city back then that side railed that, and it didn't get done then. If it would have got done then, it would have cost a fraction of what it's going to cost the community now.
Any other questions before we wrap up the meeting?
I got one. It's all tax dollars. I don't understand why, if we don't do it your way, we don't get all the money. It's tax dollars.
What's the question?
The question is, if we don't do it your way, we don't get the water and sewer money. Do I understand that right?
No, the water and sewer money, they aren't paying anything for. The water and sewer
Okay.
money is already all city.
All city, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then I understand that.
But is it considerably less when you tie it into their project or not?
Well, it's considerably less because we don't have to dig to get to it. MnDOT is basically, what they're doing, their road improvements and getting their storm dunes, they're taking care of that part of it.
So $6 million and 5% interest, you can perpetually do $300,000 of fixes and never spend a dime. Time value money.
Sure.
So you're just gonna keep fixing it?
But why is that money being taken away from us just
I
because
can't
we
imagine
changed
that
the
water
plan?
company doing that. It would destroy it.
Not the money, but the digging of it.
Well, yeah, so there, the money that we're talking about
They wouldn't have business left downtown.
being taken away, for lack of a better word, means basically they're tearing up the concrete and they're digging the hole.
Yeah.
And that's the
But if we don't do it their way, we don't get
$6
that,
million,
right?
No, we do it ourselves.
Yeah, we do it
Yeah.
ourselves. I mean, if we don't do it.
Because they won't be here doing their project then. That's all.
Okay.
If they still decided that they had to do their project this year, probably they'd still, or 2024, they'd still get down to their project. Okay, but if they're not gonna come till 2028 and we have to do this now or in 2024, they're not gonna be here for 4 more years to dig up to their project. So we'll have to go from the surface all the way down to our infrastructure. Is that's where, because nobody's gonna give us money, they're just gonna eat that part of the bill to get them.
Yeah, well, it's still money, isn't it? It isn't done
But
for
it
free.
still is our money, it's all taxpayer money.
And the other dollars that they're talking about is the cost sharing in the multi-use paths, east and west on one-way. And I don't know if there's any north or south other than that. We haven't talked about that because we have been just talking about from stoplight to stoplight, or roundabout to roundabout if you're needing people. But we've only been, like Tom said, we've been spending all our time talking about Main Street, and there's a lot of other aspects of the project, and that's where the other dollars are tied to, is the multi-use paths, east and west, and the stuff north and south.
So 25 total blocks, basically, the project, not just the 2 downtown, but 25 or something.
We actually put all our up to the county 9 with the Sherry's path, north side, with the big long stretch.
Yeah, it was important that in talking with MnDOT, where we have gaps in our pedestrian sidewalks, getting workers up to the turkey plant, there's that gap right after you get past second over here or third. And then there's other areas going out to the apartment building, the new apartment building out there, getting sidewalk or pedestrian infrastructure out there. There's a lot of components tied to just pedestrian that doesn't deal with the downtown area that MnDOT was cost sharing in to get all this stuff done. We also got to, as a portion of the city's part of that TAP money. So we have over $500,000 tied to this project in grant money to get pedestrian infrastructure in wherever we decide to put it. And that's already been approved with this project. If the project doesn't happen, that money has an end date. Probably usually have a couple of years from the starting of it to get it spent. So we lose $500,000 in grant money to help us put in what was going to be our portion, some of our portion of the pedestrian. That will go away also.
There are some great aspects of this project. I mean, look at what the cost, the benefit is, and just this main street. I'm not going to say just, prove it right, I guess, but if we're going to let that derail this whole project, Pelican Rapids is chasing its tail like it's done for 30 years. We're going to go nowhere. So we sit here and complain about the little shit. It's time to move this community forward, people.
So meet us in the middle. The stoplight scenario is safe. I know that's MnDOT's biggest concern. From both a vehicle and pedestrian standpoint, we're not going to get a lot of safety gains out of a roundabout. If traffic's backing up, that's our problem to deal with. But it'll allow emergency traffic through.
That's not your problem, that's our problem also, because it's a state highway that's backing up and goods and services are not getting through.
But for how often? I mean, what length of time are we talking in any given week?
This is the feedback that we've been getting from the city, that it's a problem that you want it addressed. And this is the solution that will work.
So then my question is, who from the city is giving you that feedback? Because we haven't talked about that at council meeting.
Tom kind of alluded to it. Back in the first time you came before the city council, when we were looking at left turn signals, it was because the city basically said, you need to do something down here. I don't know if you were on council back then or not, but there was a prior council that brought up that whole thing, which got them down here to show us, here's what we could do with a left turn, or they were looking at, here's what we could do with a left turn signal, and found out that that was not going to work back then.
We've been here a few times to talk about the left turn option. Trudy, can I came down here a year or two ago to talk about the left turn option, probably with you, with the city council, because of the concern about mobility in Pelican Rapids. Like I said, I've been coming here about this over 10 years, I haven't done that, but the issue in Pelican Rapids. Some people say there is no issue. Some people say there's a huge issue. Our data, we have our ICE report, which was done this summer with a consultant, supports the theory that there is a mobility issue today. Not a great one, but there is one. It's going to get worse in the future. In 10 years it's going to be bad, in 20 years it's going to be really bad. Because the traffic keeps getting higher and higher and higher.
I can tell you from a financial point, if you call the other dozen communities that we've done this through, and they've partnered with MnDOT, they will tell you it's a no-brainer. We pick up so many more costs,
and did they have room for the roundabouts in the towns you're talking about?
The ones that I'm talking about, I'm trying to think. I don't think we have a roundabout in one of the other complete streets. This would be the first one where we've done a complete street type of project. But I'm just talking on a financial point.
Well, financially, we know it's a great idea. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Yep,
We're just saying, we're sad that the only option you're giving us is a roundabout because we will, we're just not happy with that at all.
And it's a trunk-to-trunk highway, and we're trying to address mobility needs.
Let me ask you a question, sorry. Why are you so opposed to main roundabouts?
Well, like I said, when I was up at the microphone, I said, we only have a problem here for a couple of hours on a Friday. The majority of the time, we don't need the roundabouts, and we don't need to lose the parking, and we don't need the inconvenience for the people with big, heavy equipment. Our business, our equipment is not that size. It's not as much of a problem for us, but certainly it is for a lot of these businesses.
I think what you're alluding to, though, is more of the lane width than the roundabout. And the lane width would be 12 and 10 regardless.
What's wrong with what we have?
It does not meet our standards.
Yeah, but right now, we have trucks that have to stop. They have no other option. They have to stop on 59 on Main Street to either A, pick up garbage from the apartments that are upstairs on Main Street. They have no other option. There is Muddy Moose, a number of businesses that they get their freight delivered. That's the only option they have, is to park right on Main Street. And they have the space right now to do that. If you narrow these lanes up, then what's going to happen? Your only answer is they can't do that, and that's not a good answer.
Do you mind that is an illegal movement?
What's that?
Vehicles can't stop on current highway system and park. That's illegal. So keep that in mind.
Well, then you better have to
It's being
stop
done,
there
I
every
know, but
Thursday.
It's not a legal movement.
You mentioned the Muddy Moose. The Muddy Moose has changed their policy. They park in the city parking lot.
Yeah, but their freight's still coming off of Main Street. Their freight's not coming up their back steps.
No, they park in the city parking lot, E.L. Peterson Park.
He's talking about the freight truck.
The freight truck.
Freight truck parks in the parking lot across the street, and he dollies the stuff over to Muddy Moose.
He wheels it over in a hand cart.
He changed what he was doing.
Are you going to eliminate the garbage cans on Main Street?
Tom, how much you keep, in our meetings and stuff too, you keep referring to St. James being really a really close, tight fit with Pelican.
Yeah.
In St. James, did you have the same congested type of situation and narrowness in Pelican, in St. James? I mean, were they wider?
I don't know before they built it, it was wider in there.
And you brought up the fact that St. James, the conversations were, from what you understand, were very similar in a lot of respects with MnDOT and the city of St. James over that project too, and how it was perceived so negatively and everything else. And you commented, I believe, not too many meetings ago, how now you talk to anybody down at St. James and they love it down there, the way it's turned out. And you've offered up to our elected officials, call the elected officials down in St. James, talk to them and see, what was it like before? What's it like now? Has anybody done that? Not that it would change your opinion, just on what they think, but has anybody bothered to call just to see?
We have.
I mean, another one, it's a different thing, but you get somebody to call the city administrator for Mankato. And I know they removed over 20 signals and put in roundabouts. Now, I don't know if they're all mini runs, I'm sure there's some that were smaller ones, but.
Well, the reason I reference St. James is because it's the same, structure. You've got highways, MnDOT highway system, just like we do. And you took and you put roundabouts in there the same way you're looking at doing it here. However, what we don't know is, did you have the same, 80 feet building front to building front? In that project, you surely went down to 12 and 10, or maybe you went 11 and 9, which is your real standard. We don't know, but we keep hearing about how, there was.
We also don't have in our main street, you have no option except going down Main Street because we go over a river. So the St. James have a similar situation where they have no other option except going from A to B.
I don't know about that.
40% of the businesses don't have rear access.
Does St. James have the same amount of truck traffic and agricultural traffic?
It's very similar. It's spooky how close it is to traffic volumes and heavy truck traffic. It's very, very similar in every aspect.
300 to 400 trucks a day?
whatever how much the number is, that's like 8 to 10%, same thing as Pelican Rapids.
They probably just don't have a river running through the middle of their.
There's some reason why the highway was angled like that. There's something they're trying to go around, so look at this train track or whatever it was. I know St. James is on our website. It's been there for probably a year now. Information on St. James, the videos of it. We had drone footage and trucks driving and snowplow driving it. Everything is on there, so been there for over a year probably.
Let me ask, well, the council and the business community, because I know we're still working on the final numbers. You wanted to get the design done, and that was the whole purpose of trying to get this done and then presenting the design and the costs and the cost shares and all that stuff to the community. But if we had the cost, the city's share of the cost for the surface improvement with this project going forward the way it is, and the cost of not doing it this way, and the city having to go forward and turning those costs into what it means for every business owner, every community member in Pelican, so we could show you, here's what your taxes will do under this scenario, here's what they do under this scenario. If you saw that it was just astronomical, would that make a difference on what you think about this project? I know you say if we're doing this because of cost, we're doing it for the wrong reasons, but cost is a factor. Would that make a difference? If you say, no, we don't care what it costs us. If we don't want this, we're going to go with the project that we'd like to do. We don't care about cost whatsoever. Then fine, let's just throw it out. But if really, truly cost is one factor that needs to be looked at before we decide, would that make a difference?
You have to take into account what common sense safety is worth.
I get it. Yeah, you do.
And there's not with this.
Okay. Which tells me basically, you're saying, I don't care what it costs. You can't put a price on it.
You've only got so much space to work with downtown.
And I'm just saying, I'm just asking because, we can work towards them numbers. And I know MnDOT would like to have some idea from council in the city where we're going with this. But if people would like to see what the number is, I know when we started talking about the dam, nobody wanted to have that dam removed until we found out what it was going to cost the residents of Pelican Rapids to remove it. And then all of a sudden, it's not such a bad thing.
Well, now we're looking at how much it's going to cost to fix the bridge and fix the stuff after it's removed.
To replace the bridge and do that is nothing towards like the price tag of this is. Nothing. Fractional.
Okay, any other questions? We're going to meet.
Phil Stokesbury, would it be acceptable to MnDOT if between the two roundabouts we took the bike path out, and if we either just took it out or if we rerouted around to the west one block? Would it be acceptable to you?
By the Veterans Park?
Or even go west and east through each park.
I think the bike path is probably negotiable. I don't know, that's probably likely. It comes from the communities to MnDOT.
Here's kind of why we got to where we are with the bike path, because it was brought up to put it behind the stores. And the park board, the Complete Streets Committee that looked at that, which was made up a lot of the same people that are on our park board and on our pool committee, when they looked at that, the one thing we know that MnDOT is cost sharing everything that's in the MnDOT right of way. If we put the bike paths behind the stores, it's the city's bill, which is fine if we want to do it that way. But they felt, these moms who have little kids felt that, or anybody else, if you put the bike paths behind the stores, they're still going to ride on the sidewalk if their intent is to go to one of the stores or go. They're not going to. So we're paying for bike paths. Yeah, they're going to ride on the sidewalks in front of the stores if that's what they want to do, and we're going to pay for bike paths behind the stores that some might use, but many won't. So is it really cost effective to do that?
I think it's the best option. We tried to put forward a compromise is the reason we left them on Main Street. That's clearly the best option. Go through the parks.
Me personally, well, MnDOT really doesn't care what happens between the street, between the roundabouts, as long as there's roundabouts. Am I correct? I mean, I'm correct, right? MnDOT put roundabouts in 2024 project, or they're coming back and doing it in 2028, no matter what. We're gonna have roundabouts in Pelican Rapids, in my opinion, listening to all the arguments they'll give on street width or bike paths, if you will, not roundabouts. And to me, street width is paramount. That's me, and I'll hear calls tomorrow, and I hope I do hear feedback tomorrow. Citizens think I'm crazy. Street width is most important to me. Roundabouts, wherever you travel, whether it be Minnesota or other states, you're going to be going through roundabouts. We get used to that. Street width, paramount in our situation, as far as I'm concerned. In the city itself, they're negotiable in between roundabouts, the street width. And that's where we are concerned. I have one.
Now, we keep talking about lane width. We have for many, many, many months in Pelican Rapids. And
But that's
keep in
not
mind,
important to us.
it's very important, even the MnDOT as well. Like, if we have white up in County, this is oversized overlaid road going through Pelican Rapids. And this is a trunk highway that we, as MnDOT, have to make sure functions properly. A 12-foot driving template parking exceeds MnDOT design standards. And we fought tooth and nail to get 12 and 10. We still are trying to get 12 and 10. So to go wider than 12 and 10, it is not going to happen.
I don't understand.
Because this emergency assistance funded by it's a federal funded project. So everything we do, Shallow, you can check on this, we check out federal approval was the project. And, the design standard will be set for every project, we have to get a design standard we have to meet. And based on all the studies, with safety or there's no benefit, safety benefit going from relatively to faulted driving. So everything we do has to be approved by central office and by the federal government. Am I right, Carol? And so there's no way we're going to get anything better than 12 and 10. It's just not going to happen. I've been saying that for many, many months. I'll keep saying it. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I know, Tom, you've been in design for many years. Is there any variance with, due to the complexity of the fire truck concern? Is there a exemption in that area?
I would, the short one block.
Yeah, I would say
that's
something I was writing down here, but I would say that's something that we'd want to explore. And if there's a safety issue that's out there, then we have the ability to fight for something like that. And so understanding the width of a fire truck and trying to pull cars off to the side, is there a little bit more space that we can get based on an emergency basis? And there's room there for flexibility, I think. So it could be something we could look at and see. So what would it take to get the fire truck down the middle and squeak, the cars off to the side? Narrow parking a little bit to allow more space, and then maybe a little bit more with the lanes or something to do that. There might be a little bit there where you can make that case. So it's something we visit on and run through our channels, but I think there's a possibility there.
I just, kind of going back to the design that putting the bike path down on the street, which basically pushes everything, gives you more width curb to curb because you're basically now taking some of that space out. And Tom Pace said that wouldn't allow for the roundabout. But looking at the picture, I'm trying to visualize how that would work, and you guys are the design guys, so you know, but if you took and put that bike lane and put it on the street, then blue parked cars basically, because you don't have that bike lane up on the shared use path up on the sidewalk now, it pushes them wider, in my mind.
Right.
But so if it pushes them wider, is there a way, and if we're going to end up with roundabouts, going back to Kurt's point, it's the street width is really important. So if you push that wider, is there a way to have keep the, do the roundabouts, but be able to have that space for the bike path, not on the curb, but push the curbs wider apart. How does that not allow for the roundabout?
Don, I would have the same question. Maybe our designers, I think this was the designer.
KLJ.
Maybe KLJ can look at some option like that. I think another option that you might want to reconsider is, because you are talking lane width here, is there an option where one lane of bike, you can put one lane as direction only, and then the other one on the backside of the businesses? I don't know. I know in Alexandria, they were so tight in Alex to get that typical section in there, and the sidewalks are pretty narrow. They were forced to put the bike on the backside, and they got of those businesses. If you can visualize Alexandria, they got a dedicated bike path on the backside of businesses because they just didn't have room on the downtown. But maybe there's an option. You got one lane travel in the downtown and then the other lane on the backside. I don't know. That might be an option.
Again, my thought is if you put them down on the road, those long distance vehicles that come through town that stay on the road anyway, they'll use them. But I don't think there's too many kids in Pelicans that are going to ride from the north end of town and the south end of town or whatever. They may stay off the road altogether. They'll be on the sidewalks, which is fine.
You did it now.
Yeah, that's although, yeah, so if there's a way to, whether the city decides to pay for and put bike paths behind the store to block off or whatever, that's totally up to us to do when we decide to do it, if that's what we do. But if there's a way to look at, if the roundabouts are definitely something that you guys won't give on, if you give on going back to that design that they talked about, see if that roundabout would fit in with that bike path down on the road. Which I believe when that was looked at, because that's not typical for MnDOT design, city would have an added cost to do that. But then in a sense, you're not pouring as much concrete on the sidewalk, do you?
As far as your cost, I think you guys were awarded, was it $500,000 you got done through the Transportation Alternative Program, right? So
Yes.
it's federal dollars, we administer the program, and what I remember when I was the planning director 12 years ago, you could spend some of those dollars off the trunk highway.
Well, we have, them dollars we can spend on downtown, we can.
You can? Okay.
But not only that, obviously that $500,000, we don't need to use that in the downtown area. We can use it putting the pedestrian systems up to West Central Turkey. We can use them in other areas. It's just losing them if we don't do the project in 2024. Because we're going to run out of the time, unless the state's willing to give us an extension.
We would redirect the money and put it on a different, there's every year where we have about $700,000 in that program, we get over probably $2 million worth of requests.
Yeah.
So we would award it to another community, and then whenever, you would reapply.
And hope to get it again.
And
it's so competitive, I know.
Pretty competitive.
Yeah. But like I said, if there's a way to design it, if you guys, maybe you'll give on the roundabouts too, but if you don't, if there's a way to design them and put that path down, shorten the shared use path or whatever on the sidewalk area, and we'll figure out how to do it behind the stores at some point.
I think, like Tom said, because of the uniqueness of the river, of the downtown here, maybe there is we can sell the safety point of the fire truck with, and people pulling over. That's why we need to have an exemption in some of the policies. I think we could sell that, maybe. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think, we can look at that, and, what's that space that's needed? I heard 8'6".
8'6" is the truck.
Yeah, so
obviously, we're
you need that space
not that
there.
good at drivers to go
And then
through
you need
8'6".
enough space on either
8'7".
side for the vehicle to get out, so looking at that, how that fits through there with the roundabouts and stuff, and maybe then you don't have your trail in that downtown area. Maybe that's the better way to do it.
I had a comment. My name's Andrew. About the parking behind the buildings, I've tried to bring this up a few times earlier. Bicycles do spend money, by the way. I'll just hope you still dump my garbage, I guess, this week. But, you know, if people are parking behind the pizza place and behind the hardware store, we want to invite families to come here. The council committed to this trail to Maplewood. And they're going to make their way to Mill Street, I feel, rather than coming to Main Street. You know, if you've got kids, you're going to maybe go over this new bridge, over the river by the Pelican, get to Mill Street, and then head to Maplewood. If you're parking behind the hardware store or the new trailhead, you're probably going to come up Mill. You're not going to come up the alley by the old rapids and then head out. I think you're going to go to Mill Street if your family's parked back there.
If you're parked behind the hardware store, you're going to the hardware store.
Yeah. Right, well, the bikes will spend money.
And he's gonna buy every business back there until you do.
So, I take it MnDOT's going to be at our next council meeting on Tuesday. You're going to have some more information for us at that time, than what we talked about this evening?
That's a tall order. I'm just thinking this is the way jobs be built in 2024, the way we're going, so I mean, we're losing a lot of time by going back and starting over again, redesigning. I've had this done a year and a half ago, working on a project so far, and now we're kind of going back to starting point again. It's kind of disappointing, you know, I mean, we have the city and, you know, Don and Mayor, and we met here many times and walked through the project step by step and block by block, and now we're going back to the drawing board again almost, so.
Not, just to be fair, on a huge project of 25 blocks.
Yeah.
Our sticking point is in between those two roundabouts, which we won't give on. And we're having a hard time giving on lane width.
I think it's reasonable.
For safety reasons.
I understand your side of it too, and just so you guys know, Tom, he's scope schedule budget, right? So he's trying to manage those three things. But in this case, I think it is important to take a look at these concerns with the bike path. Maybe there is something that we can do there. And it is, you know, it is taking a little bit, it's gonna take some time. Mr. Mayor, it won't happen by Tuesday. That won't happen. It's not enough time for the consultant to relook at it, but you have council meetings every.
Next one, 26, okay? Well, we have the 12th and the 26th.
Then we also have the 26th.
And
2 a month.
Yeah, likely that 26 would be the earliest our consultant could throw something together to see if this is a viable option.
Okay. We got to talk downtown first, and then central office, or see if we'll get on the lane list down there before we dive into it.
Yeah, we can carry that too.
One more comment. You know, I've been sitting in on a lot of these meetings. They were open to a lot of council members, you know, and Brent was the only one that really listened in. And
what time were they?
10 o'clock on a Tuesday. It wasn't very easy for me, you know, but I made maybe 90% of them. So, you know, I think you guys could have made a little better effort rather than this coming to a head like this late, you know. I mean, put on some headphones and listen to it. I mean, that's what I did at work. I mean, there should have been a little more participation from the 5 of you. And I know there's public meetings, but you know what? Brent could have rotated out and some people could have come in. So, something for the future, in my opinion.
Those aren't public meetings, those Thursday morning meetings.
Well, if you had 3 council members, I'm saying, but.
We had one back in June, the last public meeting, you know, and this is, we did the exact same presentation, everything is on the screen back in June. And there wasn't as big uproar then, and now there is, you know, in October. You know, we lost half a year of design time, which is fine, we can go back and redesign things and make it better, but we're here now, and we'll move forward.
Are you able, do you need numbers from them to get the numbers that you were talking about?
Well, that was part of what was coming at some point soon, was the cost share part of all this. But now, if they're gonna go back and look at redesigning some of this stuff, which is gonna change possibly them cost shares, then they need time to do that before we can even put the numbers, final numbers together. So from my understanding is that you guys would look and see what central office would do if you could get an exemption at that point, see if it's even possible to change the design, because central office has to be a little bit more flexible or look at doing an exemption or something. That's the next step. And if they're saying no, well, then we still look at the cost share part of it. I don't know how close you were of actually getting the cost share numbers. I know it was getting close.
And that one with this layout pretty much locked in.
Okay, so they have that, this layout locked in, so they could potentially, you know, I could work with him to get them numbers, to try and, going back to my, what would it be if we take on, if we participate in this project, what would it be to the city and our taxpayers versus if we don't take, you know, if we go on our own, do our water and sewer at some point? You know, that's one part of it. The other part of it is the redesign, if central office is willing to look at doing that. Because that will change the cost share numbers a little bit.
So MinDOT will have information at our 26th of October council meeting, correct?
We'll do our darndest.
Okay.
And if it's not, if we're not gonna make that, Mr. Mayor, we'll alert you of that, we'll get on the following one or whatever it is.
Okay.
But we'll do see if we can push our internal folks and our consultant folks. Maybe interesting things.
Okay, I want to thank everyone this evening and your comments, concern, and here in Pelican Rapids, we appreciate that. Seeing no other business, there a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second? Motion second, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, say so. The game's all here.
Yeah. It'll no problem. So get to know either way for the 26.
We're very